Greetings from New Zealand, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it is 10 o'clock in the evening here, night. Yes, I sit through till 4 a.m. For the last, I have been sitting through from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. every day, but today is the last day. And before I start, can I also, from New Zealand perspective, can I also express New Zealand's sympathies and condolences to the government of Turkey and Syria. It is because New Zealand, we have had a number of earthquakes, and so we know the pain and we know the destruction and the damage that the earthquake can bring. So countries are supporting, and we are also, all of us are, after the pandemic, we are all looking at the customs provisions, and in fact, one of our recent FTAs, we have included essential clearing of essential goods during these times of pandemic or crisis. So that's the way that we are going. Thank you very much, Gail, for the introduction. Once again, my name is Sabah Vallipuram, and I work for the New Zealand Customs Service as a Senior Policy Advisor. So my presentation today is going to be on direct consignment and non-manipulation rule in FTAs. I personally do not like this terminology, direct consignment. I think I will let you know why. Some of the speakers yesterday and the day before made references to direct consignment provisions in FTAs. I think they were Dalan from WTO, Inama from UNCTAD, and Jacobo from Inditex. He actually outlined the private sector perspective of direct consignment. We customs officials are familiar with the direct consignment provision, but it gives us problems from time to time. Oh. Okay. Yeah, so the concept of direct consignment or transportation, direct shipment and transit or transshipment rule. I'm just going to look at some historical perspective of it. The concept of consignment in transportation etc. rule existed since the early last century, but widely used since the 70s under preferential trade agreements or arrangements. So those are the PTAs. The 70s saw the introduction of the Generalized System of Preference, GSP, a non-reciprocal preferential arrangement whereby developed countries agreed to grant preferential tariff treatment to developing and least developed countries. A great majority of the international trade then was in bulk cargo, transiting through third countries, including landlocked countries, was a necessity. This system, particularly in relation to bulk cargo, would have increased the risk of alteration in a transit port. Under PTAs, it is important that the exported goods are not altered so that they can retain the originating status and qualify for preferential treatment. In other words, the exported goods should be the same when it is imported, so there should not be any difference. Commercial practices in the modern trading environment have changed. For example, there are trading hubs in some major ports. Trading systems have changed. International trade is a series of physical flows of goods, goods that may not necessarily use the most direct path. Instead, it would use the least cost path. The businesses they are looking for cheaper route. The term direct consignment does not reflect the reality in modern transportation system, including multimodal transportation system, transshipment or transportation through countries, and carrying out certain operations while in transit are unavoidable. We are looking at a neutral terminology here. Different terminologies are being used at the moment, and those terminologies actually create confusion. Some examples from the existing agreements are, now direct consignment in the ASEAN Trade and Goods Agreement and that agreement, all the agreements have condition, but the condition from that agreement, passing through non-member states permitted for geographical reason, cannot enter commerce, just underline the word there, some operations permitted while in transit. Okay, and this terminology provides a negative connotation. I'm saying negative because when you say direct, everyone immediately start interpreting the goods should be transported direct to the importing countries. That's not the case, and that cannot be done these days. The second one is transshipment. NAFTA has North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement. No further production. The condition, the main condition is that no further production other than loading, unloading while in transit should be carried out. This is a non-controversial terminology, transshipment. I will explain this further. Then the other terminology that we have is direct transport. Pan-Euro-MED, that's the Pan-Euro-Mediterranean Convention. Transport through other territories permitted, provided goods remain under customs surveillance. I would just like you to note the terminology here, customs surveillance, and do not undergo operations other than certain operations. Those are specified in the agreement. This is very similar to direct consignment. Transit and then transshipment. And this, before I start actually talking about these two phrases, the definition of transit is goods remain on board. When a vessel goes through a third country's port, the goods remain on board. There no unloading, no loading involved. Transshipment, on the other hand, goods are unloaded from a means of transport, that's a vessel, and then loaded onto another one. That's a quite important thing. And you can actually imagine the risk in this when you do the transshipment process. So we have been in the comprehensive and progressive agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. So that's transit or transshipment permitted, provided there are conditions. This is also a non-controversial terminology, but there is an issue with having the terminology transit. So that's the one that I explained. We should first understand the concept clearly. Avoid using a concept which provides misleading interpretations. That's, I think, one good example is direct consignment. I think I have a case study which I can explain later. Customs have transit or transshipment procedures, but customs do not have procedures for direct transport or direct shipment. Now, reasons for consignment or transshipment, etc. rule. PTAs require consignment or transshipment provisions to ensure imported good is same as the exported good. This is actually designed to prevent circumvention and abusive manipulation or alteration or mixing of goods, originating goods. So that's the main thing. That's the reason that this rule is included in many FTAs. Only a few FTAs require consignment not to go through a third country, but most FTAs allow transshipment through third countries. However, they impose certain conditions to mitigate the risk of being altered or mixed in transit. A great majority of PTAs justify transit entry for one is geographical reason. Example, landlocked countries. Logistical reasons, that's again, example is availability of transport or warehousing facility. Commercial reasons, cost consideration, some routes offer much lower rates than other. So that's the reason that the companies go for that sort of option. Modern production processes, globalization of manufacturing, and that's what I think yesterday Jacoby mentioned about the globalization of manufacturing of goods, and supply chains have impacted on the way international business is conducted. And customs procedures need to cater for this commercial reality. And we have now multimodal transport system. Transshipment requirements should cater for all these situations. Now, considerations relating to transport requirement. When goods pass through a third country's port, PTAs impose certain conditions to mitigate the risk of goods being altered. Examples of the conditions are, first one is goods not cleared for consumption in a third country's port. I mean, I have this not cleared for consumption in a third country's port. That's a crucial word, consumption. Then the second one is goods do not enter into trade or commerce. Do not enter into trade or commerce and other conditions. And third one is goods do not enter free circulation in a third country. That's another situation or condition. Goods remain under customs control or surveillance. I think I just spoke about, noted earlier about the customs surveillance. And goods remain under another authority. I think I'll come to this when I finish this, about to finish the presentation. There is a case study. So, and all these in the bullet points, you can see the conditions. There is consumption, there's entered into commerce, free circulation, custom controls, surveillance, and remain under another customs authority other than customs. And permitting some operations such as loading, unloading, preservation of goods. So I want you to note that these requirements are not clearly spelled out or defined. Customs will have difficulty. I think we have had difficulty in New Zealand. For example, what is free circulation or entered into commerce? Some people will interpret it. Customs officials may be able to interpret, but not the ordinary business person. It may be a term that he can't really understand. And so possibly the guidelines to be developed under the RKC specific Annex K can provide some help. I think we have to provide some examples for these conditions and also define these phrases so that the trade can use, customs port officials can use, so it will create better understanding, in my opinion. Oops, not moving.
The screen is visible here, Sabah. I think there's just a delay on your system.
Okay, so is that the evidential requirements to promote the use of already available? That's the one? No, that's not the one. Okay. Yep. The evidential requirements. So I'm actually promoting. So I'm saying promote the use of already available evidence. Now, this is in terms of non-manipulation or alteration. Now, examples of the types of evidence. If say if something has happened in a non-party's port while the good is being transported, and the important about things that manipulation or alteration has taken place, then the examples of the types of evidence to verify the non-manipulation or alteration, the following are the examples. The existing documents such as shipping document, certificate of origin, export-import entry, commercial contract, invoice, packing list, storage documents, etc. Note, a requirement that a bill of lading is also a good document, but it's the bill of lading sometimes can create problems, particularly the through bill of lading. I think if someone asks a raised question, I can explain it later. Then we have this technology, recent technologies, container seal and modern electronic devices. I think they are really very good tools or evidence that we can use to verify. And the second point, I think yesterday and day before yesterday, the speakers noted that the Nairobi ministerial decision encourages preference granting members to refrain from recording a certificate. So this is just a couple of slides. So this is a New Zealand case study. New Zealand has a PTA with country X. The direct shipment rule of the PTA, and the summary is here, an originating good shall retain its originating status if transported directly. Goods will lose originating status, or lose the originating status if it undergoes any operations other than the permitted ones, or released for customs control, from customs control in the non-party. So the full rule is in the next slide. Consignment were going through a non-party's free zone in country Y, which is not a customs controlled area. That has to be noted, which is not a customs controlled area, but managed by the Port Authority, which is a government institution. Preference was denied at importation in New Zealand for reason that the consignment did not remain under customs control. Now, an appeal to the Customs Appeal Authority was made by the importer. And the appeal was successful. Appeal authority was made by the, appeal authority was made by the importer. So the appeal to the Customs Authority was made by the importer. Appeal was successful. Appeal authority satisfied that the transshipment in the manner described through the free zone had no effect on the status of the goods under the FTA. The consignment was within the free zone and not under the customs control in this case, but the goods were not available for domestic consumption in country Y. So no, the country Y does not issue certificate of non-manipulation.
The slide is showing here.
Okay, yeah. The direct shipment rule being referred to in this case study earlier that showed the direct transport rule. An originating good shall retain its originating status as determined under Article 3.2, provided that it is directly transported to the importing party without passing through the territory of a non-party. Okay, that's and then the second clause says an originating good that is transported through the territory of a non-party. So we can transport shall not retain its originating status if the good has undergone any subsequent production or other operation outside the territories of the parties other than loading, temporary storage, splitting up of loads for transport reason, reloading, or any other operation necessary to preserve it in good condition or to transport it to the importing party has been released from customs control in the territory of a non-party. Okay, so that's the last 2B is the clause that they used for the case study, and the decision also was made based on the clause 2B, I think. So basically, yes, it was the goods remained under Port Authority's control, but still nothing happened to the good, didn't lose the originating status. Therefore, it is the originating the preferential tariff treatment should have been given to the goods imported. Yet that I think that's all my presentation. If you have any other questions, maybe I can actually answer those questions towards the end. Thank you very much.